Welcome everybody to Forza Horizon 4, and today we're taking a look at the 2013 Subaru BRZ. Now this is a rear-wheel drive front-engine sports car that has been in production since 2012 and has been built in collaboration with Toyota. So yeah, very simple sports car this. It's not overburdened with technology like other sports cars out there, and that gives it two advantages. One, it means it's lightweight, and secondly, it means it's more focused. And yeah, basically this is like Toyota big money and Toyota experience with rear-wheel drive sports cars combined with Subaru engineering. And yeah, because Toyota has been well renowned for its rear-wheel drive sports cars in the past, and yeah, Subaru haven't. So I guess you can say they've combined their forces on that front. And yeah, the BRZ stands for Boxer Engine, Rear-Wheel Drive and Zenith, which Zenith basically means just being really rather successful, and this is a really rather successful car. It's a really good balance between sports, coupe driving and practicality, to be honest, as yeah, even though it doesn't look like a car that could have four people in it, it sure as hell can in the back there. And it's even got a decent sized boot as well. So yeah, easily a car you could use every day, but it's also a car you can really rather enjoy driving, as yeah, like I said, it's only rear wheel drive. It doesn't weigh all that much at 2,764 pounds, so it's not a heavy car to drive. You're not going to feel unresponsive or anything like that because of any excess weight, which again is down to the fact that it's really rather a simple car in terms of technology. And then the engine is also enhancing that driving experience because it's a really rather good one. It's a 2-litre flat 4 boxer engine, and it produces 200 horsepower and 151 pounds-feet of torque. Granted, there are sports cars out there with more power than this, but considering this isn't a very expensive sports car, I mean you can get one of these in Britain for less than £28,000, it's competitive with that price. So yeah, might not be the most powerful, might not even be the fastest sports car out there, but it's a driver's car because it's simple, it's basic. Yes, it does have a couple of computer aspects to it, like stability control and a track mode which offers 4 different driving settings, but outside of that really it is rather a simple driver's car. You got a simple manual gearbox there, 6-speed, and yeah, you're really not off one for a lack of immunities really, but its focus is just basically on the driving experience, and that is something it does really rather well. Styling wise, compared to the likes of the Toyota GT86, which is a car that shares pretty much everything with, there's not really much differences to it, and engineering wise there's minor differences. I mean, the suspension on this is slightly different, but there's no difference in terms of power, engine or anything like that. They're both still front engine rear wheel drive, and they're both still lightweight. But nonetheless, let's get out onto the road and see what this car can do. So yeah, I like to look at this car as kind of like an accessible rear wheel drive sports car, like BMWs of the early 2000s used to be. And yeah, this is pretty much a perfect car, to be honest. It's got a decent amount of power, especially when you consider how much it weighs, which isn't very much for a modern car like this. It sounds pretty good, it's high revving, more than 7,000 RPM as you can see, and yeah, it's really rather fun to drive. Granted, like I said, there are faster sports cars out there, but it's hard to think of any modern car that's as fast as this for the price that it is at, that is out even today, because obviously this car is still in production. And yeah, I guess you could really compare this to the likes of the Mazda MX-5, which granted does have less power than this, but also less weight, which goes for the same kind of ethos really, rear-wheel drive, front engine, but really rather simple in terms of focus, and simple in terms of the lack of weight that it has. And yeah, this and the MX-5 are quite different to the usual kind of Japanese fare really, which are usually loaded with technology, really rather quite complicated. Take the Nissan GTR for instance, which has all-wheel drive, it has a turbocharged engine, it's got all the computer power in the world, quite frankly, in that car, whereas this is the complete opposite. I mean, it's even got Prius tyres to induce oversteer to make it that more fun of a car, which doesn't mean that it's uncontrollable. It's not by any means. It just means that it's more capable of oversteer at quite low speeds. As you can see, I'm, you know, kind of drifting at like 70 mile an hour, where if you're trying to do that in a car with, you know, all-wheel drive or far more grip, you'd struggle to do that. So yeah, this is a car that's really rather accessible to anybody who wants to get into, you know, sports cars that are rear-wheel drive. And the acceleration isn't half bad either. 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds, 0 to 116.384 seconds, and it'll go into a top speed of 154 miles an hour, which is really, really rather good. It's pretty much as competitive as other hot hatchbacks out there, but obviously this has the advantage of being rear-wheel drive and, you know, still reasonably practical. Granted, it's not going to be as practical as, say, as a Ford Focus, Fiesta, because obviously it's not got a hatch, but quite frankly, for a sports coupe that isn't really all that expensive, it's as practical and as fast as you could expect, and I really like it for that. Quite frankly, I wish more companies out there would do something like this that's just a bit more basic, a bit more easy to get into, and just as fun, really, because we've severely been missing these kind of things from the market, which has been infested with the crossover craze. And yeah, I fear cars like this will become less and less the norm. And the fact of the matter is, because this is so lightweight, because this doesn't have a large engine, it's even economical. Apparently you can get about 35 mpg out of this kind of thing, so it's pretty much all things to all people, really. Quite practical, fun to drive, you know, easy to drive as well, but also fun as well, and also reasonably fast. So yeah, I really have very little to complain about this car. Granted, if I was styling it, I'd make it look a little bit more exciting, but quite frankly, that's all I have really to say about it. It's just not particularly exciting to look at. Outside of that, it's an exciting car to drive, and it's a fun one to drive as well. And yeah, like I said, quite frankly, I just wish more people would do this. I mean, if you stuck a BMW badge on this and sold it at this price, people would be eating it up for days, but because it's Subaru or even Toyota, it doesn't get quite the recognition that I think it really deserves. Granted, it has won awards and people do tune these to high heaven to make them drift like mad, but it'd sell by the million if it was had a more, you know, high-end badge on it. And quite frankly, I think BMW should do something like this, because they did it back in the 2000s with the, you know, the 3 Series, the shortened version, the 323. Can't remember the rest of it. The 323, you know what I mean, the one I've reviewed on the Forza Motorsport 6, I think it was out on. So I don't see why they can't do something like that anymore. Nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.